Eddie,
It's crazy.
going back to Eddie Murphy, 48 Hours. That is the acting that he does in that. He's so goddamn funny, but when it has to be real, he's incredible.
Great.
And then what was the one he got nominated for the
Dreamgirls?
Dreamgirls, yeah. For the life of me, I don't understand why he doesn't get more stuff like that.
I will say that, not to, but that 48 Hours scene when he goes into the redneck bar and the cowboy is one of the few scenes in movie history where you're like, that's a movie star has just been born.
Yeah.
With one scene. It's very rare where you can go, like John Wayne in Stagecoach, they always say they push in on him, his first shot in Stagecoach, and everybody went, wow,
who the
who's
hell's
that
that
guy?
Yeah.
But Eddie Murphy in that scene, I remember I didn't see it, but my dad seen that movie and coming back and going, there's this guy in the movies, the new guy on SNL. It is like one of the funniest things. He's phenomenal. You got to see,
Yeah. You know what else about that
amazing.
movie is? That is the best gun sounds.
Oh yeah, Walter Hill's movies always have like these cannon.
Unbelievable.
Sounds. Yeah.
Unbelievable. And you know something? I actually got to do an acting gig where I played. I'm so bad with the name. Jason. He played Mike on Breaking Bad.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Jason. He's great. And
I got to talk to him about being on 48 Hours.
Wow.
He's like, God damn it, Jack, don't you do it. Don't you do it. And he goes, he gives him the gun.
Best movies. But yeah, no, the gun sounds in 48 Hours, all those Walter Hill movies, he always had like a really cool sound design in his movies. He's great.
Yeah, the whole thing. I actually, one time, this is like the epilogue of the podcast at this point, I was on a subway, and the actor that played Luther, was, the guy from Warriors, he was sitting like right across from me. He looked great. I mean, it's like maybe 20 years ago I saw him.
Wow.
And one of my favorite, just the way he delivered that line, when Nick Nolte's beating him up with the door, and he goes, says something like, "Well, I think you're lying," and the line is, "Yeah, well, who gives a f- what you think?" And he doesn't yell to the word "fuck." Mm-hmm. He just goes, "Yeah, well, who gives a f- what you think?" Like, why would you yell at f- who gives a f- what you think? Or who gives a fuck what you? The way he did that. That was like a catchphrase in my family.
Yeah, who gives a fuck what you? Yeah, he has such weird rhythms. That guy, all the Warriors too. I mean, like he's such a he has such cool way of speaking. You're like, yeah.
Oh, another 80s movie that I watched that I highly fucking recommend. I watched Eddie Murphy and Nick Nolte in one of my favorite Eddie Murphy movies ever, 48 Hours. And to this day, I still wish somebody would write a script that has the tone of that movie for Eddie. I always loved that because it was perfect. It's funny, It's like, I guess, obviously the Clumps and Coming to America and Beverly Hills Cop, those were more geared towards comedy. But what I loved about 48 Hours was it was a real movie. Like it had tense moments and all of that, and people getting fucking, their heads blown off and shit. And then Eddie was hilarious, and Nick Nolte with Eddie was a great, cop buddy movie. But I will tell you, man, the level of fucking racist shit that Nolte's character says to Eddie Murphy's kids, just like, Jesus Christ. And that was like a thing back then. As far as I noticed, like whenever they had that thing where all of a sudden in the late 60s you could start swearing in movies, or cursing as the kids say, and you could show titties and all of that shit, and they started getting the rating system and all that, like from like the late 60s until somewhere like in the 84, 85. Like any cop, any tough guy in any movie, it seemed like they were gonna drop the N-word. They were just gonna go right down the list. But if you look at it, like everything was so fucking like beyond like race. It was also like ethnicity, where even like white people would be like to each other. Be like, hey, let me tell you, greaseball, something. If one more Polak comes over here, I'm gonna fucking, beat you to death with this Mick fucking Frog Crouch son of a bitch. Like, it's just fucking. You gotta like. It's still a great movie, 48 Hours, but like, there's a couple where it's like, all right, I get it. And then at one point, there's just a scene at the bar, and Nolte's just, his character's just like, yeah, listen, I'm sorry about all that watermelon N-word stuff. It's just doing my job, just keeping you down. And then Eddie's character's like, yeah, well, you know, that doesn't explain everything. And then Jack Cates is just like, yeah, I know. And then Eddie just goes, heh, heh, heh. And that explained that whole part of the movie away. But other than that, I will say, James Remar and I gotta get Billy Bear. That actor just passed away, unfortunately. The two of them playing the bad guys, and then the dude who played Luther. And what's cool is James Remar and the dude who played Luther were both in the Warriors. Okay, Sonny Lantham as Billy Bear. He recently passed away. David Patrick Kelly as Luther. And then, of course, it's, you know, I always loved Kehoe. Brian James, he passed away. Inspector Ben Kehoe. It just sucks in the second one when they make him a dirty cop. You know, it's like, not Kehoe.
I remember seeing just another 48 Hours, and all of a sudden they made Kehoe, this just sort of random character who had a couple of lines in the first one. All of a sudden he was the big guy who double crosses everybody. It's just like, where the fuck did that come from? There was no build to him turn. It was just like this big surprise. Like, I almost felt like the writers wrote themselves into a corner. It's like, how the fuck did we get out of there? Well, who's in the scene? There's Eddie, there's Nick Nolte, and the guy who plays Jack Kehoe, or whatever his fucking name was. We'll put it on him.
Anyway. And then who's the ex-football player that's just screaming? Oh, even he calls Eddie the N-word. He's like, he's screaming at him, I don't have for some N-word convict. That's right. I called him an N-word. You bet I did. The writer's room. It was all white guys over 50. That's what I'm going to guess on that one. But still, a fucking great movie. Other than that shit. And then you get the Bus Boys that actually ended up going out on tour with Eddie Murphy. Eddie had I think he had a lot of musicians open up for him, I'm going to guess, because I saw him on the Raw tour, and he had the Weather Girls open up, singing, It's Raining Men, Hallelujah. And I remember Eddie coming out, you know, joking around, making sure, like, the stage, because they were both big girls, said the Weather Girls can fuck up a stage. I do remember that. So anyway, definitely check that one out. There's got to be a sketch out there where they just make fun of, like, how overtly fucking racist, like, every fucking cop and tough guy was in any of those, like James Caan, Thief. I'm just thinking of all those movies that I recently watched. I think Blowout was like that. 48 Hours was like that. Serpico. Haven't said that. They're all fucking great movies, but I'm sorry for all those shit jokes. I just doing my job. That was him. Nick Nolte. I mean, what else you got to do? Go back to jail. Chinatown. Yeah. Listen, I'm sorry. I don't have the time to hang out with you. Jack, fuck you. Yeah. And he hangs up the phone. That's the end of the podcast.